Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. My name is Mark Carruthers and it's that time of the week again as we get a view from the opposition to get the inside track on the side Newcastle United will face in their next fixture. Following Wednesday night's Champions League win against PSV, the Magpies head into Sunday's Premier League home game with Aston Villa on a high. But they know all too well just how difficult life can be against Unai Emery's men. To help preview the game, we've enlisted the services of Dan Rolinson, who comes along from Reach's Claret and Blue Podcast. Welcome along, Dan.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think I'm Andrew's usually resident Villa fan to come and just give my opinion twice a year. So thanks for having me back again.
There's worse things to be called, I guess. It's, I can certainly think of some I've been called. But anyway, just on the season so far for Villa, obviously last year there was a little bit of disappointment missing out in the Champions League. We all know how that happened and really unfortunate circumstances at Old Trafford. Probably not the first sight to come a cropper of a referee decision at Old Trafford. Of course, Newcastle were the beneficiaries, which we were grateful for. But in terms of Villa this season, I mean, they've reacted brilliantly to that disappointment and enjoyed. I mean, there's an argument to say, barring Arsenal, they are the team of the season so far.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think there probably was a little bit of a hangover at the start of the season. We started the season terribly. Obviously, first game was against yourselves, and that was a pretty drab game, really.
We'll come on to that.
Okay, fine. All right. I won't go into too much detail now then. I think part of that was to do with the transfer window, PSR troubles, which I'm sure we'll come on to that as well. You know, the two clubs feel quite similar in terms of their trajectory. We take it in turns to be in the Champions League, and I think next year will be ours again. I'm not sure you guys will be in it unless you go and win the competition, which would be an unbelievable achievement, because I'm not sure you'll finish in the top 5. That's my gut feeling at the moment, at least, anyway. So I think there was a little bit of a hangover to start the season. Could barely score a goal, barely have a shot on target for the first 4 or 5 matches. I think we had 3 points off the top of my head after the first 5, and then basically won every game after that, bar one, to really propel ourselves not just into the top 4 comfortably, but there were conversations of a title race. Now, I never really led into that too much. I think, first of all, a title race doesn't begin till March. I think if you're 3 or 4 points off the top come then, yeah, you're in the conversation. When sports publishers do remaining fixtures and there's 8 or 9 games left for the teams involved, that's a title race. And it was, November was far too early for that. But fallen away a little bit from that, but still got a healthy buffer inside the top 4, which is the most important thing for me to be, like Forest last year. And I know ultimately they fell out of it, but they were 3rd for ages. The first year, I think you qualified for the Champions League. You were also 3rd for a good while as well. And it was like, oh, yeah, Newcastle, they've won again. They're always up there. Yeah. That's been Villa this season, and it's a nice position to be in.
You mentioned the similarities between the two clubs, and there are a lot. And there's lots of similarities between 2 managers. Obviously, It's quite well known that Newcastle went for Unai Emery before landing on Eddie Howe after Emery opted to stay with Villarreal. But they both probably deserve a bit more credit for what they've done at the respective clubs, and they really get from the kind of wider audience.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a bit of a faux rivalry, I called it, from the times in the Championship together, that between the 2 fan bases, us relegating you in 2006, was it 7?
2010.
2010, was it as late as that? Wow, okay. Just a little bit of back and forth with the banners and all that kind of stuff, and it's all a bit pantomime, really. I've said to Andrew before, and on our podcast as well, if it's not Villa doing it, getting into the Champions League and winning trophies, I want it to be clubs like Newcastle or Everton or, I don't know, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup. Like, I'd prefer those stories than Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United winning everything every single season. It being a closed shop. They make the most money, so they should be up there. Done well like that. You've got to make smart decisions, and both our clubs have done that by and large over the last few years and are deserving of it, whereas the wider media will still see it as a bit of a flash in the pan. Still keep seeing Villa being referred to as a purple patch.
Yeah,
we've got something like the 4th best record since Emery's been here for points accumulated. That's not a purple patch. A purple patch is about 3 weeks, not 3 years.
Yeah.
Newcastle the same. You can't just look at them and go, oh, they're doing okay for now. Been good for a few years, and you're rightly back up where you should be, competing for trophies and the top 4 of the Premier League. That's where clubs like ours should be. So, yeah, I'm all for it. And part of me feels like we do deserve more credit. the other part of me feels like, if we keep flying under the radar and people don't take our club seriously, then that's probably a benefit to our two clubs anyway.
Again, another similarity is the ongoing battle with PSR. Obviously, Newcastle were kind of forced into the sale of Yankuba Minter and Elliot Anderson, who I'm fairly certain both players would have been within Eddie Howe's squad right now, and
100%.
Hopefully being key members of that squad. And obviously with Villa, we know Douglas Luiz had to go. John Duran was maybe a slightly different situation, I think.
Yeah.
Again, both sales helped the PSR situation, but it still feels as if there's that sort of ceiling being placed on both clubs, even though they both clearly have the capability to go out and spend the sort of money that your Manchester Cities, your Manchester United are spending.
Yeah, if this was 2010, we'd both be spending a fortune every single year without worry, and we'd probably be winning leagues because the rules have changed since then. The rules haven't caught up with the landscape of football, and that's the frustration for me. It isn't, Villa, poor Newcastle, they can only spend 60 million. I think if everybody could only spend 60 million, fine. Allow people to make smarter decisions, make it fair. For clubs to sign players, realise their mistakes and go, oh, well, let's just sign another one. Newcastle and Villa, if we sign someone who's deemed a mistake, you're stuck with them. You can't just go and spend another 40 or 50 million to fix that. And that's frustrating for me. Jacob Ramsey is another one is of the same thing. That was a deal that was too good to turn down for Villa, really. And I'll be honest, I've not watched loads of Newcastle. I know he's had a couple of injury spells here and there. I don't think he's, in my opinion, when you signed him, I didn't think he was a 40-odd million pound player, to be honest, with the record that he'd had. But for Villa, that was a good deal, and it was kind of selling at the right time, it felt like, with a couple of years left on his deal. But that shouldn't happen. If Villa wanted to keep him, which I think they did, if not for it being a good offer, he's a homegrown boy. Like, he should be playing for Villa. It's just, Elliot Anderson should be playing for Newcastle. Those things shouldn't have to happen to comply with a set of rules. And I've heard Villa say internally that it's like trying to do two jigsaw puzzles in the dark, PSR and SCR. The rules conflict themselves if you're in Europe and you're trying to do two different things with your hands behind your back, and it's balmy. But we're dealt the hand that we're given, and I don't know if you'll get much of this from our two audiences, but we have both spent, and probably we have spent wrong in some instances, and we've spent too much money in certain areas. So I don't like to do too much complaining about the rules, because Villa have spent money and Newcastle have spent money, but possibly not always got it bang on. My frustration is, because you haven't got it bang on, you're then not allowed to go and fix it because you are hampered for the next 2 transfer windows or something, and that's a frustration. Whereas, Man United signed Sesko for £1 billion. Oh, he's not very good. Oh, we'll just sign somebody else then. That feels unfair.
I probably should keep quiet in that one, since Newcastle looked at him as well. But yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing is, and you're right, there have been kind of missteps in the transfer market, but I would argue both clubs' hit rates for new signings are really impressive and kind of outstripping the hit rates of clubs that are seen as the Big Six.
Yeah, I agree. And some of ours that we maybe thought, we spent 50 million on Onana last summer, and that probably didn't look great value for money last year. And he's just had a couple of weeks out from injury, but he played again against Fenerbahce last night for 20 minutes, and he's back for the weekend. He's looked more like the signs of a £50 million player this season. Ian Maatsen was 35-ish, which is a little bit steep for, he's mostly been a backup to Luca Dean, but that was a PSR thing with Chelsea as well, with us selling them somebody and we signed one of theirs. So it was diddled the figures a little bit. But he will, I think, go on to be a good player, still very young. Morgan Rogers obviously was one of the signings of anybody in the Premier League for the amount we paid for him, who's now a £60 million player at least, I would say, if not more, on his day. So Villa have largely spent well, but not everybody gets everything right, and that's fine. I just don't like the idea that you're stuck with those mistakes, whereas Man City can go and spend another 500 million like it's nothing.
Yeah. We have to talk about it. First day of the season. I realise there's probably not.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we'll get it out of the way. Probably should have done it first. But you look at that game, and first day of the season, nobody knows what to expect. Both sides had kind of new signings in there, fresh feel about them. But the game was just drab and almost became a little microcosm of what was to follow as well. Because as you said, Villa didn't score a lot of goals in the opening weeks of the season, didn't create a lot of chances. Newcastle certainly didn't throughout that time. Just a kind of false start to the season, I guess, for both sides.
Yeah, I think in isolation, a point. I mean, we're obviously very good at home, and the record tends to be that we beat you at our place and you beat us at yours. So a draw is an anomaly in that sense. But a draw against Newcastle in any fixture, I think, is fine if we're both competing for the same areas. No one's gained ground on one or the other. We had the red card, didn't we, to Concert, which I think does change it a little bit, and we're absolutely not far in at all in that first period of the season. So a point to Newcastle isn't terrible. It's a minor thing, really, but if let's say you'd have beaten us that day, we'd be on 41 points now, and you'd be on 35. So it'd be a 6-point gap rather than a 10-point one. So important in one isolated fixture, and important for obviously not to lose the opening day of the season. So I just put it down to, at the time, of we're not playing very well. I think us and Newcastle will be up in around the top 6 come at the end of the season. So a point is, it's not done anything for either team really, but at least we've not been disadvantaged and kind of quickly wiped from the memory and tried to forget about it and move on to the next one, which, to be honest, wasn't much better.
Throughout his career, Emery's defensive setup has always been kind of lauded, hasn't it? Throughout his time at Sevilla and at Villarreal as well. And, obviously didn't quite work out at Arsenal, but personally don't think he was given enough time there. But that's another matter altogether. But at Villa, his defensive record has been incredible, and it was really shown in that game, wasn't it? Down to 10 men fairly early on, but kind of kept Newcastle at bay quite comfortably, I would say.
Yeah. Well, we've been good this season defensively. We appear to, if we do lose a game, by a goal or two, you then kind of see us focus on the basics a little bit and try and be defensively solid in the next game. I had a look back through league fixtures only, and I could only find, unless I skipped one, back-to-back defeats in the league. It was in his first season, 2023. So if we do lose a game in the league, we tend not to at least lose the following one, which probably sounds like quite a minor thing, but it gives you some. If you win, that's brilliant. But even if it's a draw and you've kind of gone back to the basics a little bit, it gives the players that confidence to kind of put the defeat to bed and move on to the next one. Yeah. So bad news for you. We lost to Everton last weekend. Is this the first time we lose back-to-back? Our record at St James's is terrible, so yes, possibly. But we've gone away to Fenerbahce midweek, which, I didn't go league to cup games and European games in my research. I only did league to league. But away to Fenerbahce was also put down as this could be a difficult game, away from home, hostile atmosphere. John Duran and Asensio play for them. They played for us last year. There's narrative here to be had. Villa will make changes. We've got our fair share of injuries. We could go there and crumble and lose 3-0. Like, I'm not saying Fenerbahce are brilliant, but Villa could kind of retreat into themselves. And we went there last night and put in a kind of proper solid away performance, 1-0, really, really nice. That's kind of put all the worries of the Everton game to bed straight away. That was a bit of a crap game generally, but we've come back, bounced back in Europe. That will give the team something to take to Newcastle, which will also be hostile atmosphere, difficult away game, long journey. They can kind of take things from Thursday night, I hope, into Sunday. Yeah. Obviously, we've played a day later than you guys, and that might have a bearing as well. But I'd like to hope that we've found a bit of resilience midweek that we can take to a difficult away game Sunday.
You think we'd scripted this, because my next question was going to be about Europe. But, again, both sides facing this challenge of balancing difficult games in Europe with the Premier League. And obviously, there's the FA Cup and other competitions as well. But in terms of Europe and the Premier League, both clubs seem to have learned lessons from previous European campaigns and be dealing with that balance just a little bit better this season.
Yeah, our games post the Champions League last year weren't great at all. I think we possibly won in the league phase 1 of the league games after the 8 Champions League midweek games. I think that's right. It was poor and it was difficult to balance the two. We had the massive high of beating Bayern Munich and drew 0-0 to Man United at the weekend, and they were crap at the time, and that felt like a missed opportunity in the league. And that happened too often. This year, our record in the Europa League has been great. Won 6 out of 7 so far. Lost to go-ahead Eagles, which was a surprise. But every game after the Europa League this year, we've not lost, I think, off the top of my head, in the league, which is, we obviously had a very good record in the league. So chances are, the game after Europe probably did win because we've won lots of games. But the fact that we've been able to manage that much better this year does give me some kind of confidence, because I think it's easy to say, well, you've put so much energy and effort into Fenerbahce, you're probably going to be tired now for Newcastle. And there's bits of that, but there's also confidence and momentum of we've just done something quite big. Let's use that to go forward. And I think with Emery, because he's so intense, you always see like a week break. Like the FA Cup week was Spurs away, and then a full week's rest to Everton.
Yeah.
I tend to think Villa don't do very well with the week's rest. I think playing the games is good for us. It keeps us focused on what we're doing. I think it allows you to maybe take your foot off the gas a little bit with an extra day off or whatever it is, because you've got that week's break.
Yeah.
Because we do a cup game, Europa League game, a cup game, Premier League game, Europa League game, Premier League game. It's so intense. I think Villa have to be on it with their methods. So I think playing the midweek game rather than sapping the energy, I actually think it's a good thing for us to play midweek. I think that's what we're used to and what Emery's used to.
And how many times do you hear a manager say momentum is one of the biggest things in football?
Yeah. And confidence.
Like that. Yeah, just looking at Sunday, you mentioned earlier about this pattern that seems to have emerged, barring earlier this season, obviously, about Newcastle tend to beat Villa at St James's, whereas Villa tend to win the fixture at Villa Park. Villa's record at St James's isn't great. I think it's one win in 17. Why do you think that is? Is it just circumstances?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I'll pass it on to Emery and the gang. I don't know. I don't know what it is about this fixture. And then we've got the same kind of terrible record against Manchester United as well. And you just think, how can this happen against one opponent so often? Because you're very different. We're very different. You've had different managers during that time, different ownerships from both sides, different players, and still Villa go away to Newcastle and find a way to lose over the course of 15 years or whatever. It's mad that could even possibly happen. The law of averages suggests you're going to win one at some point, and we don't. Our record away at Crystal Palace recently has been terrible. Anfield, I mean, Liverpool obviously very good, but Anfield terrible. Old Trafford terrible. Wolves away for Villa is usually terrible. So we kind of joke about how Villa need to get 70-odd points a season to get in the Champions League from 38 games. But you can write off 4 or 5 away games because you always lose them. So we've got to get 70 points in about 30 games because, you know you're definitely going to lose here and you're definitely going to lose there. And Newcastle is always one of those for us. And I think, as I said before, a draw does nothing really for either team and it keeps you both level. If I knew every single season we were 100% going to beat you at Villa Park, but 100% going to lose at St James's, I'd probably just say, yeah, all right. Like at least we both get one set of joy and one set of disappointment. But I hope that Crystal Palace earlier, a couple of weeks ago, we managed to go there and get a draw, which for us is much better than usual. I'll take a point when we normally lose. I'd say the same for Sunday. I'd take a point because we normally lose. So we're 1 point better off than my expectations. Now, can we win? Yeah, obviously, anything can happen. But if my theory about Villa playing in Europe is a good thing, well, it also might not be. If you come out the blocks and start fast and we crumble and the atmosphere is big, yeah, you could be 2 up at half time. We go, blown that one, because we always lose here. So I think to go there and get a point would be another good show of resilience from Villa.
Kind of a 2-part question now. In terms of who do you think Villa would fear in the Newcastle side? If that's the right word, I don't think Villa will fear anyone because I don't think that's in their makeup. But if they were to be wary of someone's probably a better way of putting it. And if you could take one Newcastle player and put them in the Villa side, who would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I think Andrew's asked me this before, and I normally go for one of your midfielders, and I'd have to go for that if I'm going to take this properly seriously. We've got so many injuries in midfield. Any of your midfielders would be a real boost at the moment. Rolinson, maybe, possibly. I'd want in there for a bit of steel. Who am I fearful of? I think you're right. The arrogant answer is to say nobody, because we're a good side, and if we play well, then I'm not scared of anybody. I feel like Villa can beat anybody on their day, and I genuinely believe that. If we're on it, I think we can beat anybody. From a narrative perspective, I'd be wary of Jacob Ramsey popping up and playing out of his skin and scoring, because you just think, oh, we'll be right to sell him and all that kind of stuff. Gordon and Barnes tend to do well against us over the years as well, so similar reasons for either of those two. Is Visser playing at the moment?
Yeah, so he's kind of so Wednesday against PSV, he got his first Champions League goal for the club. Yeah. He hasn't really hit form yet, but
welcome Aston Villa then. We normally play players into form.
Well, what I was going to say is Wednesday was, I'm not even going to say arguably, it was unquestionably his best performance since signing. And there's signs that he is starting to get up to speed now. My only issue would be I do wonder if Eddie may rotate and possibly Nick Voltemade will play instead.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting. If you ask me who will start for Newcastle, I couldn't tell you. Obviously, there's kind of news awaited on Bruno Guimaraes having picked up an injury against PSV, so waiting on that. But if he doesn't play, then I think Lewis Miley comes in, who's obviously doing very well.
Yeah,
the point you made there about mindset and having that mindset, though, is exactly kind of what both clubs need now, where they are trying to get this next level on a regular basis. And I don't think Manchester City or Chelsea or Liverpool or Arsenal go into any game, no matter where it is, thinking we're wary here. We're really, there's a bit of fear there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, me saying the arrogant side of Villa is we shouldn't go into this fear in the game. It's absolutely the same for Newcastle, by the way. You shouldn't be scared of any of our players. You should be at home thinking we can beat Villa. Of course we can. You've not been as good this season as you've been in other years, 10 points behind us, but you absolutely can beat us because it's a difficult game for us. So it's not a cocky thing from my perspective to back Villa. I'd expect exactly the same thing from your fans as well. The centre forward, whoever plays, is probably going to be Villa's one to watch, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the Europa League, we played Mings and Lindelof, which maybe on paper, for those that don't watch Villa regularly, go, Mings and Lindelof, they're very good together. Lindelof's been probably our best signing this season, and our summer window was poor, to be honest. So a free transfer for Lindelof at the time got Lindelof on a free. All right, who cares? He's been very through injury over the last 6 weeks or so. He's stepped up massively, Lindelof. So I rate him actually much more than I thought I would have. But it's those two in Europe on Thursday night. It's generally Konsa and Pau Torres in the Premier League. I would be wary a little bit of Pau Torres' inability to defend against a physical forward in either Visser or Voltemade. I know Voltemade's quite skinny and lanky, but very tall, very physically imposing. I'd be wary a little bit of Pau Torres in that scenario. If it's Lindelof and Konsa, I'd be more comfortable with that because Lindelof can still do the kind of ball progression that Torres can, not to the same extent, but physically he's better as well.
Yeah.
Tyrone Mings is the physical defender we have of the four. Obviously, he handled John Duran like a child, to be honest, on Thursday night. He was all over him, absolutely battered him. All fair within the rules of the game, but manhandled him, bullied him to an extent, actually, I thought. He's missed, however, I think he got injured early November, and that was his first start Thursday night. So for him to start again might be a step too far. But I think his profile alongside Konsa is probably our best partnership for this game specifically. It's just whether Mings is actually ready to go and play again. If it's Pau, he'd be my one to be, I'm going to keep a close eye on him because he could be a bit of a weak point. And that's not me suggesting he's a bad player because he isn't. But I think he can be targeted by physically stronger players than him.
Yeah. So we're saying Lindelof's another example of a player flourishing once getting away from Manchester United.
Yeah, exactly that.
I do like stuff like that, though, because Newcastle have had signs like that through the years where people have maybe scoffed at it and thought, why they brought him in? And then all of a sudden, kind of proves his worth. And it makes a big impact. I love to see that. This may be more of a question for myself, I guess, from a Newcastle point of view, but who do you think Newcastle should be wary of on Sunday?
From a Villa attacking point of view?
Or anything.
To be honest, I don't know, which is stupid. It's a stupid answer because we don't have. I suppose Rodgers is the closest one to he's the kind of talisman, he's the focal point.
Yeah.
Beyond that, everyone seemed to chipped in with goals this season. So Ollie Watkins is on 7, I think, in the league, which is, it's okay. If he can double that and get to 14, I think that's a decent season.
Yeah.
He was flying in pre-season, which I know isn't everything, but I backed him to be like, he'll get 20 this year. And he didn't score for weeks and weeks and weeks. And he's not looked anywhere near his usual level. I'm kind of a little bit worried that his legs have gone a little bit and maybe this might be his last season with us. McGinn's obviously injured at the moment for a few weeks and he won't be available. Anana's just come back. Kamara's out for the season, which is a huge blow. I don't think the rest of the Premier League realise how good he is, to be honest, and how important he is. If Declan Rice had lost Arsenal for the season, you'd never hear the end of it. That's the same for us. Tielemans is a brilliant player. I don't know whether you saw the push that Unai Emery gave him last night, which everyone's kind of blown up to be, is there problems in the camp? No, there isn't. I think anyone who gets that treatment for Emery is one of his favourites because he's willing to do something like that. So Tielemans and Rodgers are probably our two most important players at the moment. But then We've recalled Leon Bailey from his loan at Roma, who was poor and has been poor this season and was poor last year. But because everyone's kind of chipped in, it's hard for me to just go, oh, yeah, it's this one player, because somebody might pop up on Sunday and score the winner and go, oh, I wasn't really expecting it from Tyrone Mings to score the winner. I didn't even think he played. Do you know what I mean? Everyone kind of plays their part as the unit rather than it just being that we rely on one person. If I did have to boil it down to one, though, probably would be Rodgers, which is an easy answer, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. And he is the one that I'm wary of because of the positions that he gets himself in. I mean, I talk about this all the time. It's our big bugbear with Newcastle, that they don't have a midfielder who kind of plays in that, what you class as the old number 4, number 6 role, however you want to put it. You know, the kind of defence-minded midfielder. And I just worry Rodgers will get in that space between the defence and midfield and really, really cause issues.
Yeah.
Again, to answer my own question I put to you earlier, he would be the Villa player. If Newcastle would take one, it would be unquestionably him.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Really pleased you pointed out Kamara, because I was desperate for Newcastle to sign him when he was leaving Marseille. I just think he's so underrated, as you said. People, and obviously he can play centre back as well. He can play in that holding midfield role, but I think he's just more than that.
Yeah. I think if you think Kamara is just there to break up play and pass it on to somebody else, you're underestimating how good he is on the ball. His passing range is great as well, and his quick control. He's got good feet. Actually, he's a good player. He's not just I'm going to sit here and break things up kind of guy. Him missing for the rest of the season is a blow, undoubtedly. He got an ACL injury in the year we qualified for the Champions League, and when he got injured, we were 5th and we finished 4th. So it's not, we've lost Kamara, we're now going to drop down the league. Of course, that may happen because I think he's very important. But as I say, I think the team unit can handle without him. Onana got injured a few weeks ago, and the prognosis was 2 to 3 weeks. Kamara the same, and then that was because some swelling had gone down. They've realised it was more serious than it was. The fear, I think, was with McGinn injured against Everton, if you're without Kamara, Onana and McGinn for 6 weeks, that's hard. Whoever you are, to lose 3 players of that level is going to be difficult. Onana is now back, and I think probably will start at the weekend. And McGinn, I reckon, is a couple of weeks. So if he's back end of February, I think Villa will still be in a decent enough position to keep going in all competitions that they're in. Obviously, the Europa League will finish for us next week till March time. Villa have got winnable games in February, and then there's an international break in March as well. So I think if we can see ourselves through to then, get a couple of players back for the run-in, Villa should be fine for top 4, in my opinion, with the points gap that they've got so far. But yeah, Kamara, like I say, you'd hear loads more from other clubs if they'd lost a player of his ability, whereas for Villa, it's they've lost Kamara. Anyway, no, that's a big deal. Like, it makes everything so much more difficult. However, he has missed something like 40% of matches available in his time at Villa. He tends to get a pretty hefty injury most seasons. He's had an ACL. We don't actually know what this one is at the moment. I don't think it's as serious as an ACL, but he's had periods where we go without him being available, and we've still been pretty good during that time. So Villa's success is not down to him, but it just makes it harder to win matches when he's not there.
Yeah, he does seem one of them. If he's going to get an injury, let's make it a proper one. We can do little niggles here. We do ACLs and things like that. I know so many players like that at all levels of the game, and it's just have to feel for them. Just a final one. Probably expecting this, but just a prediction for Sunday's game.
I'm going to stick with my head and go with the draw, and I'd take that now. And that isn't me kind of conceding to fear of Newcastle, but I just think that would be a good result for us, given the history of the fixture. We tend to lose here. So if we come here and don't, then we're better than my expectation. However, having said that, we normally win at your place and you normally win at ours. That's 3 points exchanged. We got to draw at our place, draw here, hopefully. We might as well just not play each other if we're just going to draw all the time. I don't know. 1-1. I just want us to... It sounds daft at this point because we've got such a healthy buffer in the Champions League. You don't want to lose that, obviously. So if we were to lose and the other teams win, that gap becomes a little bit less. If we can just keep where we are and get through games without getting any more injuries, I think that's a little win at the moment. I'd
probably go along with the draw. I just think both teams may cancel each other out. But yeah, it'll be an interesting game as it always is. But Dan, thanks for joining us to preview.
Thanks for having me.
a really interesting game. Check out the Claret and Blue podcast if you get a chance. Final one, many thanks to our sponsors at NordVPN for their support for the Everything is Black and White podcast. Check out what they can offer in the description on YouTube and various podcast outlets. I'll be back on Monday with Andrew, where we'll have the wonderfully named Monday show, reflecting on Sunday's game, everything that Villa have offered Newcastle, the outcome, and a bit of analysis of how things played out. I will see you then.